Hello. Welcome to True Living Africa, your wellness podcast. I'm Uyok Hansen.
And I'm Oyin Talabi.
We are your
Health and wellness coaches.
And we are here to help you live your best life.
Yay! Hello, Africa. How you doing today? Thank you for joining us. Uyok.
Yes.
You're already in the Zen space.
Yes, I'm so excited, like invertedly excited. Based on what we're discussing today, we're continuing the Zen with Fola Pinhero.
If you're wondering what's all this our excitement, you need to go back to one of the episodes that we did on meditation. Mm-hmm. And so that was just an introduction. And today we have Fola with us again to talk some more about meditation. So I'm just going to leave Uyok to introduce.
Yeah, for those who don't know him, Fola is a lawyer who writes about meditation and mindfulness. You can find his written pieces on his weekly newsletter, Being Present. He also takes an interest in psychology and philosophy. So you're welcome to this episode, Fola. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, thanks again for having me.
Thank you for being available for us. We really enjoyed the last session, so we're chuffed to be able to do this again.
Absolutely. And so today we're talking about, we're sort of moving forward. The last time you were with us, we talked about what meditation was and how important it was, especially in these stressful times and in the
our lifestyles, basically.
Yes,
stressful lifestyles,
modern lifestyles, and all of that, and how you essentially got started with meditation and how anyone else can get started with meditation. And today, just to sort of dispel some myths and answer some frequently asked questions about meditation, we're talking a little bit more about the different kinds of meditation that we've got out there, right? And Fola is going to take us through the different kinds. People ask things like, how many kinds of meditation? What is right for me? Should I do it this way? Am I doing it wrong? And people
there is a long list.
People think that there is the one type that you have to do it. If you're not crossing your legs or sitting asana and breathing deep, you're not meditating. And so I, for one, discovered movement meditation because I'm such a kinetic person. I can't sit still. And the sitting still used to freak me out. And
can you imagine?
And so I had a friend who was like, there's something wrong with you. I said, no, there can't be, because there must be different kinds of meditation, as much as you have different kinds of people. And you're going to lead us right into it. So over to you.
So types of meditation.
Exactly. Yeah, so like you said, obviously there's the sitting type, which typically involves using your breath and just paying attention to that and being with that. So that's sort of what we did towards the end of the podcast last week. Right. 2 weeks ago, actually. Yeah. The main aim, if you can call it an aim with that, is really just to recognize that your mind is just sort of automatic most of the time, and it's just whirring through, and thoughts just come out of nothing, emotions just arise out of nothing. And by being with your breath, it sort of gives you an anchor to, choose to act in a different way. So it sort of pins you down back into the present moment and away from thoughts, emotions, and feelings that arise. So you don't have to sort of keep on chasing them or be carried away by them. So I think that's quite a useful way of meditating. And it's what I've used for most of my practice. I think the other styles, I've sort of used them intermittently, but I think that's been my base practice for sure. And then there's also like body scans, which they're quite similar in the sense that you can sort of use your breath to ground yourself. But the main aim with this is to ground yourself in your body and recognizing, there's a quote that I really like, which is that our minds make us homeless, but our bodies know where they are. Our bodies are always at home.
Wow.
And I think that really underpins the essential teaching and wisdom behind the body scan. So how you do that is you could sit down, you could lie down, you could walk around, but ultimately you're feeling your way through your entire body. So starting maybe from your head to your shoulders, through to your chest, legs, feet, all the way down.
Right.
And in doing that, it sort of just helps you to get out of your head and out of the narrative and the story that's constantly going on. So it still sort of achieves the same aim.
Yeah.
But it's through a different sort of grounding feature.
Right.
In this case, which is the body.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's that. There's also you can do the same thing with sounds. You can do it with sights.
Okay.
And I quite like these sort of more alternative meditations because they translate more easily into the real world, right? So the real world isn't just you sitting down when so for example, let's say you come across somebody who is difficult. You don't always have the time to sit down, take 5 minutes and meditate. But if you're used to one of these other practices where you can sort of just sink into your body, or you can pay attention to sounds or to sights, and it allows you to have that space of mindfulness wherever you go. I think they're quite useful for that because, like I said, they just transition quite easily into normal life.
That's interesting. So I was wondering, the schools, the types, are there still more?
So there's.
Before I go into my question.
There's quite a few. But there's also loving kindness meditation as well.
I'd like to hear that one.
Yeah, that's quite interesting actually. I've used that probably second most to breathing. So that's very different in that you tend to use a mantra or a saying, and you bring to mind. First of all, you might start with yourself or someone that you feel generally good feelings for. They tend to say no, like a partner or something, because that can get complicated, but maybe like a child or a pet, or like a cousin or something, someone who you have an easy relationship with, right? Bringing them to mind and wishing them well in their life, wishing that they're free from suffering, right? Wishing that they have a life of ease, and just generally sending them good wishes,
good energy.
Yeah, and then really connecting with the intention behind the words that you're sending, or the energy you're sending, that you really do want them to be happy, right? And you really do want them to be free from suffering. And then as you connect to that, you realize that intention is really independent of the person you're sending it to, and then you're able to send it to anything and everything in every situation that exists.
Absolutely. I like how you said that, because earlier on when you mentioned not using a partner as an example, because that could get complicated, as in sometimes you have ambiguous feelings, or you're a bit ambivalent towards your partner or your other half. And so maybe if you're in a bad space, and it could happen with children as well, like if you have older kids who are misbehaving or off their rockers, and you're not sure if you want to be sending out loving kind feelings. But the purpose of actually practicing this, you practice it to a point where you really should be able to, you're really able to send out that intention to everyone and anyone, which is what I love about what you said. And it kind of brings me to the Hawaiian practice. I just can't pronounce it for the life of me. I think it's Ho'oponopono, something like that. I will find it and I'll send it to you guys. But it's the same, loving kindness meditation you talk about, where you send out feelings of love, forgiveness, gratitude. So you essentially say, I love you, thank you, forgive me, I'm sorry, that kind of thing.
Sending out to who?
Yeah.
So sending out to anyone you're feeling ambivalent about, anyone you need to, when you're trying to solve a problem. So there's a story about a guy who was able to cure, quote unquote, inmates in a halfway house, without ever meeting them. So he had these guys transitioned and reduced the rate of recidivism. How do they say it? Like, instead of going back to crime. Yeah. So he was able to lower the rate with the inmates in this house. He was like a coach or a therapist, and then he would call in and he would speak with them. And when they asked him years after how he did that, he said he took he took everything they told him. He would go back, do his meditation, and sort of what he called clean up on the feelings and send out feelings of love, of
to
kindness.
them.
Yes. And so they started to practice.
It's interesting.
Yes, I love you. Forgive me. I'm sorry. Something along those lines. And the more you say it with, like Falakumi said, with intention behind the words, and send those intentions out, and they begin to the aura starts to envelop them, and they begin to walk in that with that intention. So
that's interesting. That's actually a tool that parents can use towards children, and you can use to even loved ones and stuff.
Absolutely, especially
in any situation.
Absolutely, and it does help, especially with the feelings. Those. Like I like to say about meditation, that it's like giving yourself an emotional bath. So it really helps with negative emotions, where you would have vented or said something you couldn't take back, or you'd regret, or, something damaging to a child or a loved one, or, in a relationship. You take it back and you clean up on that. So you do the inner work. And that's also sort of part of taking responsibility, isn't it? As opposed to trying to
make them.
The typical childish thing that we're conditioned to do is, you made me feel bad, so I will. So you deal with it, right? So, you have a conversation or a confrontation, and you lay it all out. And it seems like the cool thing to do, like, oh, I gave it to her, I said it, I told her. But really, it's not all cases that we need to do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we hear problems from people that seem like insurmountable, and it weighs heavily on your heart and all of that, you go back, if you're not going to pray, but that sending that intention out is really key to cleaning up the negative emotions that surround some of these dicey, touchy issues.
And one thing that is actually that comes to mind is that we are, it just brings us back to something I think we said in the other podcast, that we are energy. And if we think about it, and so the whole process of meditation is really to still that mind so that we can harness that energy and then use it in a more productive way, in a more mindful way. And so if we're sending good vibes to someone, or even the emotions, they're all, just different charges of energy. Really. So we have those that are in more negative energy and more positive energy.
Right.
And so when you're meditating with this loving kindness practice, you're actually sending energy. So you're sending positive energy, or you're sending negative energy, because you can do this in a evil way as well, and just send evil energy as well.
Yeah.
I think it's also heroic as well, in a way, because you can imagine a situation where someone upsets you, and if you're not skilled in loving kindness, you then just reactively spread that to someone else. Right. Yeah. But whereas if you're able to have this practice and do it well, you're able to sort of break that chain of negativity spreading around. And in a way, it's one person in one interaction, but like these things sort of matter on a bigger scale as well.
Yeah.
You can imagine you say, instead of saying something negative to somebody, you say something nice. And they that sort of incrementally changes their mood towards being more positive. They then go and do something more positive to someone else, and then it sort of ripples out like that. I think, it is, like I said, it is heroic, because on some level, you are changing the world by being able to harness more love and to spread it to the people you come across. Yeah,
I agree with you. And I also agree that it's heroic in the sense that in the moment it seems sacrificial, because it would go against the grain of your human flesh. But so that's what makes it heroic for me, because you're absorbing, so you're taking it, right, and you're sending it out to the universe, and you're asking the universe to, you're cleaning up on how you feel, and and that's why it's loving kindness, because it's based on love, and love is almost like dying to yourself so that others can live and be happy around you. And so while in the moment does seem sacrificial, it's of huge benefit, and it's a huge impact to people in your circle, in your workplace, in your family, especially with children, because they pick up on this energy all the time, and you'd be amazed how they turn out when there's just that loving kindness going on. Yeah, I agree that it's heroic.
Interesting.
And it's also like, so when I went on my meditation retreat, and that was towards the end of last year, the teacher was just the person who was leading us in most of the meditation. She was just so much in the present moment, and she was just, everything she did was through love, and she was just in that space, and you could tell that, even if you're feeling down, having that person who is like an anchor, who is present for you, can really just be the difference, and it can really just change your mood entirely. And it's, like you said, with children as well, like if you're able to act and be around children from a place of peace, they respond to these things, and it makes for a much better environment in total.
Yeah, and especially with emotion management, right?
Yeah.
Emotion management and emotional intelligence are so key these days, because you see we've got all this general anxiety disorders walking around undiagnosed. People are low-level fearful, flat out anxious, angry. There's all sorts going on. We finished an episode on emotional eating.
Yeah.
And how people who think they've got like huge appetites, just wonder, what's wrong with my appetite, and then realizing that it's really just emotional eating at work.
Tied to an underlying issue.
Right. And the only way to overcome that from derailing your wellness is really to address the underlying emotions that you're running away from or using food to salvage, just as an example. And with the kinds of meditation that you talk about, you're able to take those emotions, right, and sit with them and deal with them.
True.
And it gives you that sense of self-care, and you're just able to cleanse really, and move forward. I think that's a bell going off.
Yeah.
Right.
I really like that about emotion. Applies to so much more as well. So, for example, using social media for way much longer than you need to use it for, or even watching. What I used to do was watch too many meditation videos to the point where I'm just trying to distract myself from being bored, and it's
binge watching.
It sort of makes it. Yeah, exactly. And with meditation, more generally, it helps you to be more self-aware of your intentions behind doing things, and you can just see when you're eating or you're browsing through your phone or scrolling through your phone rather, and you're doing it just because maybe you're feeling lonely or you're feeling insecure or you're feeling anxious.
Exactly.
And once you're confronted with that more and more, you then recognize that these sort of tools that we use to rid ourselves of these feelings are really just futile ultimately. And the only choice then from a meditation perspective is to go towards the feelings and meet them with love and understanding.
Absolutely. Because like you said, right, the feelings don't disappear simply because we distracted ourselves from the feelings.
Yeah.
If we push them down, far enough, they're just, we just push them down for the moment.
They're waiting for you.
And they're waiting for you. And when they erupt, they erupt big time. Like, and then you're even like, where did that come from?
Have an overkill moment.
And they erupt in all kinds of ways. You're taking a walk and you just you burst into tears, or the door, you lose your, you misplace your car keys and you have a meltdown, all sorts of things. And so, but with meditation, I found out that so the contrast with meditation is that meditation is not a distraction. It actually helps you deal with those emotions. I mean, it's amazing. Like I say again, it's like a bath. as in that particular incident, it doesn't come back as far as I'm concerned. So you've dealt with it when you meditate properly. And, like what you said with the different kinds of meditation, the reason why they're different kinds is that people have different inclinations, different skill sets. So you do have to do one that you're comfortable with and you're skilled at, because you should be able to come out on the other side, I like to say, of the practice, having dealt with these emotions. And then some people, sometimes we think that, you have to be feeling turbulent or angry, and then you go shut yourself in the room to meditate. Who's whatever. Yes, that works. Taking a deep breath, that's where the taking a deep breath and counting to 10 comes from. However, it's best to have it as a daily practice, because you're then in that present, calm state, and it's easy to revert to a meditative state when it's more of a discipline, as opposed to going to it when the poop has hit the fan. So it's a practice that we must do when we're calm or when we're not, especially when we set a time and it's morning and you say, but I feel all right today, I think I'm going to skip it. I think not.
Yeah.
I was wondering, so the different types of meditations, where do they all tie in breath work with it, or is that a different type of meditation? So like you mentioned one about being outdoors. Is it
right. The
moving and bird watching.
Right. No, so
because I think Fola also mentioned something about being in nature. Those and all. So I'm thinking. So if you're moving, if you're being in nature, if you're doing all these different types of meditation, where does breath work come in? I mean, I know that that's a kind. Yeah. But I'm also wondering
if it comes into the movement one, not necessarily.
Into any of the others.
So, for instance, if I'm doing something, strenuous like lifting weights, I would be breathing, but I'm not going to be focused on my breath per se. I just need to be focused on something like just focus on being present. So with nature, for instance, I'm taking it all in. You're listening to the sound of the birds or the rustling of the trees.
Okay, got you.
Right? Or the splash of the waves.
So that's what your focus is on.
Right. And
got you.
And sometimes when you're at home, we have the nature meditation that, mimic these sounds of being in nature to give you that sense of calm and zen.
I used to work in a place, and that was the soundtrack for The Office.
Right.
They'd have nature, had
sounds.
different.
That's really nice.
Playing in the
really
background.
Nice, yeah.
It was a little creepy at first, but we got used to it. You eventually get used to all the new people, new guests in the building were like, what?
What's going on?
What's going on? Yeah.
Just go with it.
Yeah. It's a bit of a haunted house scenario here, but okay.
Just go with it. But it was an architectural firm, and it just really, the guys were there drawing away and doing, but they needed that kind of environment to be able to dig deep and focus on what they were doing.
Being in nature does
that's
for
interesting.
you. Yeah, and you can do it, when you're, so if for instance I'm lifting, I like to be present, and it's a form of meditation for me. And so I'm killing two birds essentially with one stone, because I find that. And so instead of dreading my workout, I actually look forward to my workouts, because it's a time for me it's my me time, and I'm not rushing through it.
That happens to me when I'm doing Pilates.
Right.
Yeah.
That's another form of movement meditation, especially with yoga.
Yeah, yoga. I mean, I really feel like the and I guess we'll talk about this when we're doing spirituality, but I really feel like, I know that the Hindus and they were onto something when with the yoga as part of their worship. Yeah. And it's like there is something there between movement and breathing.
Right.
And connecting with
being present
and connecting with your body and your well-being. And it's all tied together. So even all this meditation that we're talking about, the breath work, whatever style of meditation you go to, it also ties back to our well-being, and it's not just even only emotional well-being.
Yeah.
There's the physical well-being that comes in, so stress relief,
Right.
and better digestion and all of that. And then there's all the other aspects of our lives as well. So there's, you have better focus, so you can even deal with money better. You can deal with society issues better. So it's interesting how one practice influences so many other aspects of our lives, and we don't pay attention to it, and we just think, okay, it's
you think the movement
meditation
is separate from,
you think the movement is separate everything
from,
is in boxes.
Yeah.
And then even with meditation, it's okay, I'm stressed, let me meditate, or I'm trying to conquer this issue, let me meditate. But it's actually an important part of our lifestyle. Like Fola mentioned earlier when talking about when you talked about body scan and how you like that because it helps you to stay grounded. And all. It's just the whole thing, the whole meditation is to help us be grounded and focused, focusing our energy so we're not scattered.
Right, because I mean, like he said, what's that wonderful thing you said earlier about the mind
being all over and then the body at home.
Yeah, so
could you say it again?
The actual quote is, our bodies are our home, our minds make us homeless.
Right, so our minds make us homeless.
Yeah,
because of the way it tends to
wander.
It's all about the place. And I think an interesting point as well is that I wrote a post on my newsletter about how meditation is like ocean exploration in a way. So what I argued was that, well, not argued, but what I said was that that's the lawyer in me coming out. So what I said was that so on Earth we obviously know a lot about like animals and weather systems, and we sort of understand a lot of things. Like so we as human species, but there's a lot more money being put into like space exploration, for example. So you look at the SpaceX launch, like there's a lot of effort going into that, but we sort of neglect the water and the oceans that are around us, which is what most of the Earth is made of. So the analogy I got from that is space exploration is like sort of going to social media or going to food or going to, I don't know, substances or relationships and sort of using that to cling for validation or to resist your experience. Whereas going to the ocean is more like looking into yourself, into your mind, and sort of taking that peek in and actually saying, exactly, and it's like our minds are all we ever have on some level. You can be the wealthiest person in the world. If you haven't got a straightened out mind, all of that means nothing.
Absolutely.
Whereas you could effectively have nothing and your mind is on your team and it could mean the world to you. So I think it really is the most important thing, and meditation just gives you a tool to examine it and to understand how it actually works and to really rein it in as well.
So even to tie in what you've just said about how the mind is very important, the human, I mean, we as man, we're made up of spirit, soul, and the body. So now the mind is in the soul, and that whole soulish realm of emotions, of reason and all of that. And they all flow together. With meditation, we tend to anchor all three together so that we can focus the spiritual energy with mental, soulish energy and physical energy to achieve
our objectives on Earth.
Objectives, just harness that energy together so that we can achieve our objectives and all influence one another. All influence one another. That's awesome, and that's been so interesting.
That's a really interesting way. Interesting way to look at it.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, I really wish we could do like one of those sessions like we did last week. But it's okay. I've learned so much.
Me too.
I've learned so much, and that quote.
Likewise.
That quote was amazing, and thank you so much, Fola, for joining us again today.
Thank you.
We hope to have you again, some other time, and I'm sure our listeners, learned a lot and will be practicing. So follow us again at True Living Africa on Instagram, Twitter, and www.africabusinessradio.com for the links to the old episodes and to keep up with us. Thank you, Africa, for listening.
And we shall see you next time. Thank you,
See
Fola
you
Pinhero.
next time.
No problem.
Bye,
everyone.
Bye.